ソウルリーバーって何ですか？そしてなんで人気がありますか？皆さんこんばんは。西洋では人気があるのに、日本ではあまり知られていないゲームを皆さんに紹介するのはいいかなと思いました。なぜ一部の人々がそれらのゲームを愛しているのか、その魅力は何だと知ってもらうつもりです。また、自然な英語を聞いていただきたいとも思っています。それに実は数の人から声が素敵だと言われたことがあるので、それを少し活かしてみたいなと思うようになりました。でも、this isn't a video about me, so let's talk about the game.
Cain is deified. He was mortal once, as were we all. However, his contempt for humanity drove him to create me and my brethren. I am Razia, firstborn of his lieutenants. I stood with Cain and my brethren at the dawn of the Empire. For my transgression, I earned a new kind of reward. Agony.
Given that a remaster has just been released, I chose to introduce you to Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. If you're interested in this game after this video, you can easily download it for your PS4 or PS5. Soul Reaver is a sequel to a less well-known game called Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain. But as Soul Reaver had 3D graphics, it was instantly much more popular, and has since eclipsed the first title in people's memories. It also has 3 more sequels, which you can play on PS2 if you like. The first sequel, called Soul Reaver 2, is especially well regarded. This is good news for me because I'm always looking for new PS2 games to try. When I was a teenager, I played a little bit of Soul Reaver on PlayStation, and then a little bit of it again on Dreamcast. Both times I was impressed, but ended up putting the game aside, perhaps because the gameplay didn't compel me forward. But some things about Soul Reaver stayed with me, some undeniably excellent features that imbue it with a positive sheen. I think that I and many other people must feel the same way. These impressive features are 5. The way you can pick up objects around the world and use them as weapons. Look how cool this is. The game even seems to remember where I've dropped weapons sometimes. 4. The voice acting and sound effects. The cast was carefully chosen, and the script writing was taken very seriously.
What are you, little soul? Another of Cain's creatures come to taunt this bound spectre.
I did not intend to disturb your rest.
Rest. A body is needed for sleep. Flesh and bones are required to recline. No, child. All I may do is watch and remember, ceaselessly conscious as this wretched world's history unfurls. Ghastly past, insufferable future, are they one and the same? Am I always here?
Many people don't realize this, but Soul Reaver is part of a series of connected games called Legacy of Kain. The lore of this series is still taken seriously and held in high esteem by some people. The sounds, voices, and music of this gothic horror world are distinctive and strongly connect you to it. 3. The way there are no loading screens. Much like Dark Souls, you can walk to almost anywhere in the world if you want to. The fact that they accomplished this on PlayStation with their streaming technology is just utterly incredible. 2. The timeless atmosphere. I speak about atmosphere a lot. It's kind of my favorite reason for playing games. So, even years after putting this game aside for not being fun enough, the reason I still remember this is just because I couldn't shake the atmosphere from my head. And after 2 comes number 1. So, best of all, the number 1 thing about this game, I think, is the way you can switch between parallel worlds instantaneously. The idea of parallel worlds had been done before in games. Think of Zelda 2, Zelda 3, A Link to the Past. But whereas in Zelda 3 you need to access a portal or use a magic mirror item, and you can only really do this in certain situations, so you're a lot more limited. In Soul Reaver you can go to the spiritual realm at any moment. And in the moment it takes for you to travel between worlds, you can see the world change. The lighting becomes brighter or darker, and the architecture around you subtly alters its shape. It really was a treat to watch this back in the day on the first PlayStation. Seeing the geometry warp and new pathways open. What's more, this world transformation will happen without loading screens. I really don't know how they did it.
This charnel house bore the unmistakable marks of Melchiah's clan. To what depths had our dynasty plummeted if these ghouls were the descendants of my high-born brother? Were they so debased as to recruit fledglings from the desiccated corpses here interred?
One other thing I noticed is with the warp gates. Because you spend most of this game traversing the world on foot, it can take a long while to get anywhere. But scattered throughout the levels you can find magical gateways. Each of these is linked to every other one. At the time, around 1999, this was a bit of a new concept. I remember being a little bit mystified by the warp gates at first because they seemed strange. Oh, and they had no loading screens. You can link yourself to any other part of the vampiric realms instantly. This is another reason why a lot of Westerners are fond of the game, especially the tech heads amongst them. Because even though the PlayStation had such limited memory constraints, the developers managed to stream data with such seemingly effortless efficiency. Soul Reaver is truly a marvel of its era. But there's one thing I have to say. The gameplay is a little bit dated at times, and there are just way too many block puzzles. I mean, take a look at this. See what I mean?
No! Please! I didn't recognize these flayed racks of flesh. Their scent was vampiric. They gnawed upon their victim's carcass like dogs.
There is still a small but loving fan community around this game and the series. They share art together and game code and lost assets amongst each other. And they even do cosplay sometimes. So even though this particular vampiric world isn't for me, I can see why people love it so much. And hopefully after watching this video, you might want to give it a try too.
You are weak. You must feed.
The old hunger has left me. I have no desire for blood.
You are changed. Your bloodthirst is replaced by a deeper need. You have become a devourer of souls.
Okay. 見てくれてありがとうございます。Bye bye.
Tumbling, burning with white-hot fire, I plunged into the depths of the abyss. Unspeakable pain, relentless agony. Time ceased to exist. Only this torture and a deepening hatred of the hypocrisy that damned me to this hell. An eternity passed, and my torment receded. bringing me back from the precipice of madness. The descent had destroyed me, and yet I lived.